Yeah, I don't know, man. You ever just feel like life is just catapulting towards some greater purpose?
Average fat cats with bloated ego. We are the only DJ crazy enough to tattoo Jackie Brown on his ass.
This is Michael Mann, and I ride with
Extended Clip.
Welcome to Extended Clip. It is episode 381, and I'm one of your hosts, Eddie Averill.
I'm Malcolm Baum.
I'm JC White.
And joining us on the Zoom through the power of technology all the way from that mystical realm known as Canada, we have one returning guest and one first-timer. They are a podcasting duo. They are the Sleazoids. It is Josh and Jamie. What's up, guys?
Welcome. I just welcome myself. Sorry, I'm in podcasting mode as if we didn't work all day on our own stuff.
Yeah, that's the thing. We're always in host mode. But thank you for having us. This is awesome. And for letting me bring this movie on.
I was like, Jamie needs to be the one to come this time and choose something. So this is free Jamie Rain.
Yeah.
The free reign Jamie pick, which, Sleazoids fans are always lusting for. They're like, we need Josh to kind of clear out of the way on some of these episodes and just go full Jamie mode. And sometimes we need to go to an entirely different show to accomplish that,
Yeah.
And that's what we're here for. That's what we're here for. You guys do a show where you talk about genre movies in a double feature format, but the one rule, pretty much, I say pretty much because you've broken it a couple times, is that you stay in the 20th century, you stay in the 1900s, as it were. And so I knew that, like last time when Josh brought some more contemporary 2000s stuff, you guys wanted to fill some Sleazoids voids that you couldn't quite do on the show. I remember Josh, I think his first appearance, we did some 2000s De Palma and Tony Scott.
Yeah,
that was a classic double feature.
Quite an episode. Then.
Yeah. And those are, ripe Sleazoids picks that can't be done on that show. So once again, we are providing relief for the Sleazoids community for some 21st century trash in the form of Torque by Joseph Kahn from 2004.
On January 16th. Whoa. The only way to survive. I'm on his head by midnight.
This just keeps getting better and better.
Is to break every rule. From the producer of The Fast and the Furious and SWAT.
Let's ride.
Torque.
You messed with the wrong chick!
Torque is an insane movie. It is something of a piece of Fast and the Furious exploitation, a post Fast and Furious 1 action movie, if there ever was one, from the MTV era and the music video directing mind of Joseph Kahn. It is a movie that can aptly be described as a Mtn Dew style action movie, to the point where that becomes literal later on in the movie. It is just one of those insane early to mid 2000s overcranked extreme sports infused action movies, and I'm so glad that you guys brought it to the podcast. Jamie, I'm guessing this is a favorite for you.
Yeah, I've only seen it twice, to be honest. This is the second time I've seen it, but I discovered it in 2020. I think it was in the midst of COVID and all of that, and I was just I was watching way too many movies, like 5 a day. And I think I wanted something really short. Kind of knew it was going to be dumb, but that just really wanted that like Michael Bay, high octane nonsense action. And I saw the poster. I looked at what the plot was. I'm like, this has to be exactly what I'm looking for. And it was. Honestly, I didn't know it was going to be as cartoonish and satirical as it ends up being. So that was just an added bonus. I didn't know it was going to be so in on the joke and so hyper stylized, but it's fantastic. I have so much fun with it.
Josh, had you been a Joseph Kahn fan for long? Or are you a fan of like his other works other than this one? And had you seen this one before?
Yeah, embarrassingly, I like Joseph Kahn. Or I did like a lot Joseph Kahn until his brain was broken by the 2016 election cycle and becoming Taylor Swift's music video director. But prior to that, I also like his movie Detention that he did, which was him kind of trying to do like a Heathers, Scream, Mean Girls, Community. Like it's like a meta time travel slasher, you know, type thing. And that was, I think, maybe the first thing that I watched, and it resulted in me going back to Torque. And it was definitely, you know, someone where I went, this guy has a lot of really hyperactive, hyperkinetic style, to the point where even my online brain of, you know, high school self was like, this is a bit much. And it took me a number of years before I figured out that he is legitimately one of the defining names in like the late 90s, early 2000s, like hip hop and pop music video aesthetic. And I realized my brain had been seared with his images for so much longer. I was like, dude, I remember Toxic by Britney Spears. I remember watching Blink-182 and the Offspring videos. Like, and you know, he worked with everybody. Eminem Without Me was like a video that I was very familiar with, and I was like, man, I had no idea that this guy was so much behind the, you know, the prevailing visual language of like the Bush era music video. And then I was like, and then when he made the jump to feature filmmaking, I was like, one, it's, you know, the style is, you know, it's too much. But now I look back on it now and I kind of go, man, it'd be interesting to see if anyone else could experiment with this a little bit, because it seemed like for a while hyper cutting became too much. We were like, we're done with this. This is ugly. This is crass. Now everything is a John Wick lawn take, and I kind of want to see someone do this again.
Although with the rise of, you know, TikTok and short reels, it feels like that pop entertainment style is coming back a little bit as well. This is, I think, the better version of that. There's a lot of
Joseph
obvious
Kahn could come back in the
bullshit with
TikTok
it.
era. It's gonna
maybe
work.
yeah, because this thing moves unbelievably fast. I mean, like every plot point is just a stupid little piece of dialogue moving to the next thing. Really, it's just an excuse for the next action sequence. I mean, that's kind of what I want this kind of film to be. So I think it's perfect in that way. And it is fairly self-aware as well. They're doing very obvious over dramatizations, and they're using the Michael Bay spin camera effect quite a bit for both comedic effects and
the
to
same
accent
way like another
things.
director would use like a reverse shot in this movie.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. It's like anything that's happening, it's overly stylized to the point of being so cool that it's kind of lame, and that is very entertaining to me. Like if someone just gets out of a car, he has to do a big pan to the right and then zoom up across the guy's entire body and then reveal his like eye line and shit. Like it just has to be that way, no matter what's going on.
Yeah, no, the most ostentatious moments of a lot of action movies are the most regular moments of this movie. It kind of reminds me of like Tony Scott's Domino in that regard, where it's just like steamrolling a bunch of really insane bullshit, just like giving it to you at 1,000,000 miles an hour. And there's so much style, and you can't even sort through the good and the bad. It's just like a giant wash of popular American images, basically. Like what Josh said about him defining the Bush era aesthetic is so true. I mean, he got a head start in the late 90s, obviously, with all those music videos he was doing, but he really becomes like a pop music video guy by the time the 2000s come around. And yeah, like the kind of gross over the top sense of humor, I think, of his videos, like the Eminem We Made You video, for example, like that. I feel like that kind of defines the crass, like almost post South Park mainstream sense of humor of like the mid 2000s a little bit. And yeah, it's like, for better or worse, it's like a perfect encapsulation of that era. Malcolm, had you seen this one before?
No, I hadn't. I hadn't seen any Joseph Kahn except for, you know, some of the videos you guys are naming. You know, I knew he worked in videos, but I feel like that kind of escaped my mind before I started watching the movie, because it's like, oh yeah, he's like a huge, like he does Taylor Swift videos, like he's one of the, you know, biggest ones working.
Yeah.
And, you know, I've always enjoyed music videos, and I feel like, you know, kind of like, you know, there's kind of like a common criticism. I feel like there's a lot of movies kind of like late 90s, early 2000s that kind of really lean into the stylization. People are like, oh, these are like, you could tell like a music video director directed this, because it's like showing off in every capacity. And and you know, I feel like I tend to, you know, I kind of like that in a sense. You know, with everything, it could be a little bit too much sometimes. It could be a little overbearing. But you know, I feel like what was kind of just my initial impression of this is like, I don't know. I feel like something like this, you have like Josh said, the kinetic energy, the constant cutting, and all that stuff, and the crass humor. That's something that maybe would kind of more likely to annoy you as you watch it more, but I kind of had the opposite reaction where I kind of warmed up to it as it went along, and I kind of, the pacing's breakneck, but it's kind of like what we're talking about with the action sequences. I feel like the action sequences are kind of deployed in like an intelligent way throughout the runtime, and I ended up enjoying this quite a good amount. Yeah, no, I mean, it's like a quote unquote dumb movie for sure, like a very low IQ movie, but I think it's it's intelligently designed in the way that like momentum is built through action scenes, and Joseph Kahn is able to just like really pile them on in the back half of this movie. I say it's intelligently constructed in terms of that, but that it's also like barely 83 minutes, and after the final action scene still includes a scene of Ice Cube saying, "Well, I guess I'm done here."
Oh yeah.
Well, it doesn't waste your time, and he knows the story. That's what I'm here for.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That was what originally kind of impressed me about the movie, is that I felt like, as pitched, when you say, it is legitimately Fast and Furious exploitation, it is their direct, one of the main bad guy, Henry James, is literally the guy Vince from the Fast and Furious movies. There's obviously a big gag that made it into the trailer of, "I live my life quarter mile at a time." And that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
They even also have a thing where it's like cars suck or whatever, and they're making fun of the Fast and the Furious in a way, but in on the joke.
Yeah. I think it so easily could have been one of those like Friedberg and Seltzer like movies. They ended up actually even making one. Do you remember what that was called in like 20?
Speed Kills?
I can't even remember.
Was it Speed Kills?
I feel like that's the.
There was also a series of Fast and Furious parodies that weren't by Friedberg and Seltzer that were DTV, that were like they were a play on the name Fast and Furious as well.
It was called Super Fast.
Super Fast.
and I don't have the bravery to revisit that, but I imagine it's exactly as like hideous and unfunny as I kind of remember it being. And so that's just it, is I think that this is a movie that had the potential to be that, and it just was made by a guy who clearly like actually has a love for hyper stylized like Hollywood action products, and assembled a team of people who he knew could, achieve that look. I mean, he got the cinematographer Peter Levy, who had shot Broken Arrow for John Woo. He was another guy who was obviously kind of, twisting the American action movie product with the Hong Kong sensibility. He got the composer Trevor Rabin, who was a regular Bruckheimer guy and had literally scored Armageddon, Bad Boys 2, Con Air, Enemy of the State. We were talking about Bay and Scott. And all of the stunt guys that he got were guys who had done like Last Action Hero and like True Lies. And so you can tell that there was just, despite the fact that he was definitely going to make it impossibly dynamic, and he was even going to do that using like PS2 era like CGI that at times makes it kind of look like The Matrix Reloaded or like Speed Racer and stuff like that. But he was also going to incorporate like legit wire and gun fu on crotch rockets, like stunt work and stuff like that. And I think that that's just a kind of effort that, when it becomes indistinguishable from the actual thing, or it even is better than the actual thing, I think that's usually when I start to appreciate a parody. And that's why I think like, something like Last Action Hero, I feel the same way about that. Like there's sections of that movie that just play indistinguishably from the action movies that it is actually trying to, satirize in a way.
Yeah, I think the constant stylization too, even with the drama, helps with believing in the ridiculous action when it does occur, like driving, 100 miles per hour on top of a train, or breaking the sound barrier at a certain point. It's just having the entire film this ridiculous makes you believe in those moments. And even going to your like practical effects and the CGI, I do find, although there are moments definitely where it's just that balloon man kind of thing, and it looks pretty ridiculous. I think that they do it very quickly and are able, for the most part, to meld it together with the practical effects that you do notice it, of course, especially this being from 2004. It's just that I find there's still moments that they do some type of filter or something that allows the color grade to kind of melt together, even sometimes better than what I see nowadays, where I see a very distinct difference between the CGI or the green screen or whatever's going on. It might be lighting. I don't really know.
You can hide uncanniness within artificiality and saturation and stuff already, right? It's just, I think people used to sometimes know how to blend that stuff better.
Yeah, and because even the stuff where it gets to, near the end where they're breaking the sound barrier and all of that, I feel like I've just bought into how silly this all is. So when it's obviously fake in front of me, at that point I'm like, well, they're breaking the sound barrier. This would be beyond the vision of what human beings could even comprehend or whatever. I'm just like buying into it through.
They're doing like Star Wars light speed chase on motorcycles, and they're doing bullet time that's igniting the fuel line, so it looks like the treads are leading a line of fire, and it's ridiculous.
Yeah, and the physics are all off because they're still kicking each other while they're going that fast, and they still, like, they're going so fast that they can't see what's in front of them, but they're still dodging every single car. It makes no sense. And by that point, if you've made it that far and you're enjoying yourself, you're not going to give a shit. But I think it's because of that hyper stylization.
JT, what did you think about this movie? And did you ever treat yourself to any of Joseph Kahn's music video work?
I have a particular soft spot and sentimentality for like the 2000s, I don't know, music video influence style, because I think it was something I was deprived a lot of as a kid. Certainly to some extent, because I was like some twee indie pussy who was not like listening to like new metal or things like that were like far from my taste at the time. Also, definitely something my parents would have not liked. But I don't know, throughout the years, I mean, especially also like a lot of my early taste in film kind of veering the more art house direction when I started to like watch movies like art house and classic Hollywood. It was not something I ever paid any mind to. But especially like, I don't know, I knew this was coming up. I had this queued up for my Super Bowl win Eagles hangover watch movie. And it's just like, I don't know. Some people say like the hangover cure is like a full sugar Coke and like a greasy breakfast. And like that's what like this style of like 2000s action movie was. Yeah. It's like perfectly pitched for that kind of thing. Just like so fun. Like, I don't know. I like anything that has that sort of like crude, like juvenile humor at points. Like kind of hard in general to talk about like performance in this movie, but Adam Scott, I recently, I don't know, some friends have talked me into getting into Severance to watch that. Yeah. And like I don't really like him doing like more serious grounded performance, but here it's like he's pitched to like the level of his character on Eastbound and Down as like a douchebag MLB agent, or like Step Brothers core, and he's just like chewing scenery in this.
We need to bring back the FBI agents wearing graphic tees and like Converse.
Yeah, graphic tees with the like suit jacket. It's so fucking good.
Not your father's FBI agent.
Yeah, the disheveled hair, like he just woke up and he's a stoner or a skateboarder or something like that. Yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah, no.
It's funny. I couldn't decipher like what was on his shirt. I kept trying to look because a lot of guys in this movie are rocking like classic metal shirts. Like there's a guy wearing a Megadeth shirt, and then our main guy's wearing a Ramones shirt the whole time under his racing leathers. A lot of just like band.
His racing leather that says "Carpe Diem."
Yes.
In like the Fox font.
Yeah.
We didn't even talk about our hero in this movie, played by, what's the guy's name again?
Martin Henderson.
Martin Henderson, who does, like, that name does sound more like a racer than a movie star, kind of.
True, yeah.
But Yeah, he's a guy who just got out of jail, I guess, and rides a crotch rocket with a racing leathers that say "Carpe Diem" on them, and in a land where men on crotch rockets are the new men on horseback in the desert, and in this film it almost sets it up like it's that, like an analog for the Western in the beginning. Him and his friends are almost outlaws by not being in a gang and just being friends who ride fast and hang out. But little do they know they are going to be, roped into a plot, a conspiracy of these rival gangs and the FBI because, our main guy, Cary Ford, he found a stash of motorcycles that are full of crystal meth. And, what do bikers love more than motorcycles? Crystal meth. It's like a motorcycle exponent, is finding a bike full of crystal
But
meth.
they were being stashed in his girl's garage, so
Yes.
he was really just making sure that she doesn't get in trouble.
Exactly. Yeah. See, the thing about Carrie is he cares about his girlfriend, whose name is Shane. This movie is so homoerotic that even the guy's girlfriend has to have a guy's name.
I was going to make like a comment like that.
Like every single guy describes how beautiful Ford is by saying Dawson's Creek. He's Dawson's Creek.
Yeah, they keep referring to Dawson's Creek.
Isn't he dreamy?
So this came out after Too Fast, Too Furious as well, right?
Yeah.
Okay, because
yeah.
I feel like that is like literally a Wayans or Seltzer and Friedberg style parody of the over-the-top
bro romance thing.
Yeah, the suppressed homosexuality of Too Fast, Too Furious, which, I'm far from the first person to talk about, obviously. But I feel like this is almost just like making fun of it with how just like ridiculous this movie, like it shoots the men in the classic music video male gaze style, the way like a Carl's Jr. commercial would shoot a woman in a bikini eating a hamburger. But it's it's pretty much all dudes other than his girlfriend Shane, who is like the Hawksian woman kind of, who's like just like on an equal level as all the men and can do everything they do. And then the main bad guy, who by the way is named after the author Henry James, by his side is Jamie Presley, who's like, I don't even know, like the porn parody version of Mila Jovovich in Resident Evil, kind of like.
She's the Nazi dark biker chick.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's a
goth Nazi aesthetic.
Yeah.
Before she starts doing like motorcycle action in the last 20 minutes, her entire character is just like making sex faces at people, and it's one of the most ridiculous performances in the movie.
She's a real minx.
Yeah.
And then what's hilarious too is she gets one of my favorite action sequences eventually, where and throughout the film they kind of treat the bikes like they're one with the bike, like it's a body part. And in this particular scene with Shane and China, where they kind of the two girls head off, they are even doing things where they're fighting with their bikes, like they're almost like they're swords, like they're lifting up and doing a wheelie and then hitting each other in the wheels like it's a lightsaber duel or something like that. It's truly unbelievable.
And that is the scene that starts with a reverse shot of both characters in front of a wall-sized soda advertisement, Mountain Dew behind one of them and Pepsi behind the other. And it is just like the perfect way to start that action scene that is just like the most, like producers ahead of time thinking this is going to be the coolest thing ever filmed. And then like half of it looking kind of like motorcycle jousting, half of it almost looking like they're wrestling each other on a motorcycle somehow. It's a very uneven set piece, but it is undeniably hilarious and pretty awesome.
Oh yeah, there's a part where China gets on like the seat and surfs on her bike as well, such that I think she can like jump over to the next one.
Doing the Jean-Claude in Hard Target.
Yeah, absolutely. I love like the dialogue is so ridiculous too. Like it's very 13-year-old juvenile dialogue where it's like bitch is one of the biggest insults that you can say to somebody, and everybody calls it to each other. And this one ends, of course, because it's two women. They go, "You messed with the wrong bitch," and then Shane replies, "Looks like you just did, bitch." And it's after like she backflips off of her bike and drop kicks her onto the ground or something like that. Just ridiculous shit. But man, it's so
At one
fun
point, she
and
like whips
stupid.
out her butterfly knife and is just trying to stab her on the other motorcycle. There's so many bizarre gestures in that fight.
And to be honest, what's crazy is like we're talking about it, and it does sound stupid because it is. But in the midst of all of this, he'll do amazing camera work. Like when there's one part where someone brings out a knife and it's like super clear, you can just see the reflection off of anything, and he drops it, and then he uses that dropped knife as kind of a mirror for a biker gang that's coming up on them. And it's just like, and he does that throughout the entire film. That's just one example.
Yeah.
So it is cool to have both of those things happening simultaneously.
I think like kind of the key difference between kind of like a lot of like the heavy cut early 2000s kind of like constant, like, you know, only 2 seconds per shot type action movies is that Kahn seems to take real pride in having very detailed inserts. You know what I mean? These, you know, because I don't know, there's other movies, you know, very different type of movies, but you think of like maybe more like a Greengrass style, and it's kind of a little bit like you're kind of
supposed to be more immersive and shaky and whatnot.
shaky. Yeah. And in this one, it's like, yeah, you get an insert of the knife on the ground, and you get a reflection, or anything that we're cutting to here is just shot with just great detail and kind of like clarity. And you know, I think it helps with the variety of this movie, because I did appreciate, you know, what we're talking about, kind of like how you know, the Mountain Dew versus Pepsi fight scene, as I like to call it, you know, kind of them doing like the aerobics on the bike, or, you know, kind of doing some weird moves. It is like, I do appreciate the variety, you know, because it is like, I do enjoy a good chase, but it is like, you know what I mean? I can only see someone go 100 in the desert on a motorcycle for so long.
Yeah.
Like I appreciate the environment changes and all the different set pieces, and kind of just like you know, we'll try to, you know, keep mixing it up.
And what Jamie was saying about the camera work, I find it to be such an interesting balance that this film takes between just like ridiculous kind of PS2 animation looking CGI shots with just the craziest, most overly involved camera work ever, you know? And also that's the difference between this and other hyper edited early 2000s action movies, is that a lot of times those movies are just cutting together like coverage, and this one, I feel like every single inch of film is intentionally shot. There's no real coverage in this. It's like there's like 5 different crazy camera moves happening at once that he's cutting between, with a lot of just intentionality and clarity.
Yeah, there'll be like one location I absolutely loved is it's like a palm tree forest that they drive through. And it's so cool because he sets it up in kind of a funny way where they're all in a line and just waiting for the people that I think they're going to ambush. And it's a great shot where you can see the beginning tree line of the forest that they're going to go into, but the rest of it is just the highway that they're waiting on. And you just think it's kind of a cool shot, but then he transfers into the forest, and he's, you know, they're like kicking their bikes off of trees and just doing insane shit. But like you said, it's a different location. They have the train sequence, they have the alley battle that we were talking about, they have the supersonic breaking the sound barrier moment. They
it's
use constant.
The trees like they use them in A Touch of Zen.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Like there's actual like wire work. It's unbelievable. So yeah, it's great.
No, I feel like this film is definitely an example of like the influence of Hong Kong action cinema getting filtered through Hollywood, just like popular style. You know, it's like a little bit of that with a little bit of the commercial and music video style, a little bit of the Fast and Furious action style, a little bit of the, you know, Scott and Bay, Bruckheimer Simpson style. Like I feel like within 80 minutes, Joseph Kahn is covering so much stylistic ground that like it's like, you know, he throws so much at the wall that even if not all of it sticks, it's getting thrown at the wall at such a rapid pace that you're going to find something that sticks every minute. You know, there's always going to be something entertaining.
Oh yeah, now you're like 5 minutes of like a new metal like barroom brawl that results in like a guy being strangled to death with a literal like bike chain, which is an important plot point because they go, dude, nobody has the same bike chain.
Yeah.
They're like fingerprints. We know who did it.
I had no idea that bike chains were like snowflakes and that they're all individual
fingerprints. Yeah. Yeah, it's what I like too is that it feels like we're in a world where normal people don't exist at all.
Yeah.
And the small glimpses of those people are instantly wiped out by the chaos of the action or whatever's going on around them. Like Dane Cook, out of all people, makes a cameo as this lame ass biker guy that can't put down his kickstand, and he ends up getting his Porsche crushed by a giant truck or something like that. So anyone that has any, normalcy whatsoever is wiped out.
Well, you call them
just are left.
You call it normalcy. That guy's a fucking poser. Okay.
Yeah.
That's it's the most importantly. It's the real independent free spirit bikers.
Yeah.
The right way to live. And the fucking
That's
bullshit
right.
posers who just
Exactly.
want to soak up the culture without paying their dues, without scraping their knees. So.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Dane
fuck
Cook
Dan
doing
Cook.
cultural imperialism, like always. Like when he steals jokes from Carlos Mencia.
And it's speaking of comedy too, there is like some really good beats in this that I found funny. Like again, kind of speaking on how they take over the entire film and there's no real normal people. There's one shot where Ice Cube is like looking at a map on the highway, and his entire gang is filling up the whole highway to the point where any oncoming traffic is just swerving out of the way, and they're calmly looking at the map like they don't give a shit. They know they're gonna swerve. And it's stuff like
Me
that
of pulling
too.
maps out of the glove compartment. Have not done that in a very long time.
Ice Cube holding a map with two hands while riding a motorcycle at top speed is one of the funniest things in this movie for sure. Like that is
And one of the slowdown moments, which is funny too.
Yeah. Oh my god. I mean, but I feel like him just not having hands on the bike at all, like on the throttle at all, while maintaining top speed is where it's like a breaking point for the reality of like the physics of the action almost. Whereas like then 30 minutes later, you're at the point where they're basically doing hyperspeed through traffic, like right after the two women have their jousting duel on their motorcycles, it cuts to the guys getting their duel, and it's just like in total hyperspeed. And it feels like what started as a Bikes of the New Horses neo desert western for the first 5 minutes is now just like a full-on
And they gave it to you a little bit in the middle. They were like, we're going to have some train hopping, and we're going to have a guy rip his crotch rocket like through the compartments like he's riding his horse through it or something.
But just by the end, like, it's just so like out the window with any notions of reality in the action. And I think that's why it's so good, is that Kahn like goes full like proto speed racer mode for the third act of this. And it just really like as we were talking about earlier, like if you're on board, it's the most fun thing possible, and if you're not, it probably would make you hate the movie. But I think that last like 20 minutes.
If you're not, I can't imagine you making it there, because it's what it is for 85 straight minutes.
It's very consistent. Yeah, it doesn't. That's the thing. It kind of right away tells you what it's going to be. So it is one of those movies you'll know in the first 10 minutes whether it's for you or not. For me, some of these things can be too much, but there's something about this that's so, I guess, consistent in its style and its momentum that I just buy into it right away. And the fact that it's clearly a satire helps as well. But and then also the soundtrack, like, when this came out, I was 12, and so I was really starting to get into, quote unquote heavy stuff.
Jamie's Hoobastank era.
Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean? Yeah, exactly. So so having Ice Cube be like, "Let's ride," and then Nickelback drops, it's just fucking unbelievable. And then also for them to like kind of mishmash a bunch of different pop culture, where they also, because it's West Coast, because I think this is based in LA, they in the credits then transfer to like a West Coast hip hop, which I don't know if it was an Ice Cube tune or not. I didn't look it up, but It is the West Coast style, and it's so interesting to go from Nickelback and then to West Coast hip hop in a second.
Well, it's like Kid Rock says in the song that plays. I mix the punk rock with the hip hop.
That's right.
You know what I mean? It is trying to meld.
And
both
see,
of those
Nickelback
styles.
and West Coast hip hop, that's kind of like Sleazoids and extended clip crop.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
Oh yeah.
I think that's as good of a comparison as you'll ever get.
This is kind of. I was gonna make, but it wouldn't. I was gonna say this is the walk this way of podcast episodes. It doesn't quite correlate, but
Well, I think that's also an equal comparison of Sleazoids being like Aerosmith and us being like Run DMC.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Before we wrap up here, Sleazoids, what's your favorite Aerosmith song?
Oh man, I have no idea. I love it's so funny that I can only think of the one where Eminem sampled it, but Dream On. I love Dream On.
Of course.
I like more Nickelback songs than Aerosmith songs, to be honest.
I put them in the same tier, probably.
Yeah.
Like, they're both pretty low tier bands for me.
Yeah.
I'm not a huge fan.
But I feel like, I do, and, maybe it's the irony, whatever. You could chalk it up to, you could examine our brains and get a pie chart, see, the percentages of sincerity, whatever, all in between.
Yeah.
But, like, when they do cut to the Nickelback song, like, I am kind of like, nice.
Yeah.
Like,
I almost stood up and applauded.
That's how I feel about I Don't Want to Miss a Thing.
Oh,
my God, yeah.
Oh my God, yes. I think we have talked about Don't Want to Miss a Thing in Armageddon on this podcast like every other year since we started the podcast. It comes up. It's one of the most magical moments in rock or film history.
Hell yes.
It is so stupid, and I just
one manly tear down my cheek.
That is a song that will never fail to make me laugh. I don't know why Steven Tyler singing to a character basically from, beyond the screen, singing to a character played by his daughter, being, romanced by Ben Affleck is just one of the funniest things of all time. And,
it's beautiful.
To quote that song, Torque is a movie where I never wanted to look away because I didn't want to miss a thing.
Absolutely. And honestly, at 80 minutes, it's hard to miss anything in this thing.
Yeah. There is, like, since it moves so fast, I do feel like there's, like, kind of, like, slight moments that are kind of pretty savvy, probably wouldn't get that much recognition, but, I do enjoy kind of, I can't remember the names. I do remember... or I can't remember the names.
But of the gang with Gary Ford?
Yeah, Gary Ford, the two boys.
The most disposable friend group ever.
Yeah.
I think they're called the Reapers, I guess. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, but it makes sense because it's like you're playing off
the guy who he eats when he's horny, but he also just likes to eat.
Exactly. All right. Maybe I played my hand, see why I like him so much.
Yeah.
It's like a brief moment where, Mr. Ford, he's in the phone booth, and like I think they cut to like a shot in like the eater, he's eating chips, and then like his other friend kind of sneaks behind him and takes the bag out of his hand without him noticing, and then puts it back like a magic trick. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I think that's I think that's just kind of funny, and it's like
some friendly antics.
Yeah, but it's like in the. It's less so the act itself, but, kind of like the camera trick that Kahn does with it. And, there's stuff kind of snuck in the nooks and crannies. I mean, it's something also in terms of its satire, too. I feel like, I do kind of find it funny where you kind of have, all right, you got the white power biker gang. At least that's how I read them. I feel like that they say some racist stuff. I don't know.
I'm
pretty
sure.
Yeah.
They definitely
do. Yeah. I say it's on the border of them being white power and just 2000s Bush era style.
True.
Racism.
Yeah, you're right. It is. You do kind of split the.
Everybody's super racist about him hiding out in Thailand.
Yeah.
Well, what was funny was when they I won't say it obviously, but when they point out the thing that they say, they don't correct them about saying a slur. They're like, that's the wrong slur for those people.
Yeah.
It's such a funny thing to point out. Yeah. Educate yourself.
But there's kind of like, we're kind of saying like it's Fast and Furious satire, right? You have like, you have the black biker gang, you have the white biker gang, and the true heroes are, the multi-ethnic,
Yeah.
you know, like
The
crew
yeah.
that represents, you know, each of different race and like I don't know, it does kind of feel very like early 2000s movie like diversity in
Sure,
a sense that you know, this is the correct notion. You know, we can't go all white power, but we can't really do, you know, the whole
Yeah.
black power thing either too. So
We'll do
you
it
know,
like the BK Kids Club.
yeah,
you know?
exactly.
Yeah.
And there's some fun had with that. Like I think towards the end, like they do a Rube Goldberg style chain to the motorcycle thing to hang one of the white bikers.
Oh,
And
yeah,
then
that was
think
crazy.
I was gonna bring that up. It's so sick. Ice Cube just totally destroys that guy.
a reverse lynching. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's chock full of that stuff, but I do think it's kind of used to humorous ends, and it's never too tasteless.
Yeah.
I guess maybe a little bit, but
That's part of the fun too, in a way.
Yeah,
of course
exactly.
it is. The agedness.
I think it is tasteless, but like that's part of its charm is its tastelessness.
It's intentionally tasteless. It's not.
Well, because compared to other stuff that I really like from this era, something like, you know, Tony Scott, I feel like is much more conscious of being an artist than
Absolutely.
Joseph Kahn,
Yeah.
despite both of them being meticulously dedicated to the craft. I wouldn't quite call Tony Scott's movies tasteless. I would say that the material is tasteless, like the scripts or whatever can be tasteless, like especially Domino, which this film reminds me of a lot. But I feel like Kahn is more one with the material and embracing its tastelessness and trashiness, you know?
Yeah, I've always found this stuff to be really honest of its time as well,
Yeah.
whether they mean that intentionally or not. It almost doesn't matter because it's just it's blatantly like what this decade was. And I always
Absolutely.
Michael Bay does a lot of that too, right? Like Bad Boys 2 is one of my favorite movies of all time, but obviously politically I do not sign up for anything that
Yeah.
they're saying in that movie, but it's like who gives a shit? It's one
What
of
do
the
you mean?
most
That's not
honest
what you've ever said to me.
off mic, yeah.
I agree with the morality of like parenting in that movie. You know, like I think there's some really strong displays of parenthood, like when they
Agreed.
tease the girl's prom date. You know, like
Yeah.
I think that's really strong parenting.
Yeah, you can't let your daughter's prom date think.
And that's an
it's
instance
gonna
where the
be-
personal is
yeah.
political. You know,
Every man's fantasy, intimidating the daughter.
Someone should ask them Michael Bay's opinion on reopening Guantanamo. I'm curious.
JT, any final thoughts on Torque and Joseph Kahn and anything like that, and a rating on a scale of 1 to 5 bullets for this movie?
Yeah, I'm gonna go 4 bullets. I had a really great time with this, and again, it's just like I don't know. Especially after coming off of like Celine and Julie Go Boating with Nick, it's just like sometimes you need a shot in the hip, just like this. That is just gonna like I don't know something that like obviously is satirical, but is like riding that line so like you like just dancing on it like a tightrope. It's awesome, and just like something that is so like the effort is there in the effects, and it does exactly what you want from like action set pieces, and is so like continually inventive. Like I don't know, I just love right from the beginning. You're in it, you're there. It's so tight and like short. It's just I don't know, the kind of just I wish the vulgar sort of slop, and I say slop affectionately because sometimes you want something like this, but it's just you're not getting like the caliber of craftsmanship that you used to get from something that was a little like rude and I don't know, willing to engage with like just being childish and fun. Yeah, I don't know. It's a very great time. Even just like what we're talking about with like setting and like the broad character types are just very fun. Again, there's like it's not like you care about any of these people, but the way in which the stereotypes are painted is just so fun. And like when there's that little detour there where the like fat restaurateur like catches him recognizes him from the TV and comes out with the huge long gun and the mustache. It's just like things like that will always put a smile on my face.
The fat small town restaurateur. I like that you call him a restaurateur and not just like the guy who runs the diner.
Well, I don't want to be disrespectful.
Yeah. JT respects dining in restaurant culture.
The art of dining.
Exactly. The art of dining. I mean, they call it a diner. Like, how much more fine can you get? You are the diner. Yeah. Malcolm, what about you? Any final thoughts and a rating?
Yeah, I'm going to give it 3.5 bullets. I do really enjoy it, and I think, maybe the difference between something like this and then, I don't know, like kind of like your standard action movie of the time, where it's like Kahn has no reservations of just getting straight to the action and crafting that in a very specific way. And there's no, even with movies like this, you'll have, maybe it's studio interference, maybe it's the filmmaker themselves thinking that this needs to kind of go on a more traditional track, or I need to like bolster the characters, make them a little bit more fleshed out, where I feel like he does the opposite, where you kind of just work on shorthand. It's like, oh yeah, he's this type of guy, so you don't even need to think about him. Yeah. You know what I mean? You could just kind of continue on this pace. And, and I think there's just like I said, the craft is just fully on display. Like I enjoy kind of like the different color palettes we get for a lot of these different set pieces. Like something I think of kind of in the beginning, you kind of get like the bleary orange sun and like the desert, the Barstow, I think it's where it's at. And then, once we get to LA itself, we kind of have more of like a yellow sun type, more clear type sheen that I enjoy. And, we were bringing up comparisons, and of course Bay, Scott are quite apt, but I feel like the movie that this reminds me the most of is Time and Tide by Soy Hark, because that's it, in the sense that I feel like that movie is so perfectly dedicated to the craft of action set work, and like that seems to be like its main focus no matter what, and everything else in the movie is in service of that. And so there are like stylized movies, but then like there's this where it really is the point. Something like Belly 2 comes to mind, although working in a very different tone, very different setting, all that stuff. But just the pure dedication to that is something I always admire. And Kahn's a talented guy. I want to check out more of his work, but I mean, all I have to say is that, I was driving over to Eddie's, to record the podcast. I got a little inspired. I was kind of carving up the road. I was kind of tearing it up Torque style.
Damn.
So it is.
You guys got to watch his PC culture battle rap movie Bodied.
I've heard that he's made a battle rap movie, and that definitely has piqued my interest.
I really want to watch that.
Yeah. So, but yeah, just if you see me driving out there, watch out.
Watch out.
or I'll race you if you want to race too.
Josh, what about you? Any final thoughts and a rating?
Yeah, 4 bullets from me as well. I think we've mostly covered everything that really needs to be said. But yeah, I do think that like it's for me, the thing that really works about it is that I think, this could have very easily been a Friedberg and Seltzer thing, and I think Kahn is the distinguishing factor. I think very like him doing the hyper-saturated, hyper-active, and kinetic, sort of music video aesthetic that he had helped sort of shepherd in, where, you really do feel like pop and hip-hop and nu metal kind of all existed in like one space, and that space was like an energy drink commercial. And it like applying that to the tradition of the sort of like artificially maximalist visual language of like Bay Scott, and the kind of, the sort of structure and the obviously the really broy, sort of street racing characterizations from Fast and Furious. And it is someone who's like clearly someone who just has passion for and has puts a lot of effort into actually how you construct a Hollywood action product. and is having an absolute blast, making their own sort of like cartoon spin on it. And it's very, tongue in cheek, and it's very over cranked, as Eddie said at the beginning, to just such an obnoxious and exhausting degree that it somehow circles back around to being you feeling like we were comparing it to some Hong Kong and experimental filmmakers. And it's like at a certain point, it's hard to, not feel like an asshole saying that, but it's kind of what's coming at you while you're watching it. So yeah, I am very consistently impressed by it. And Malcolm was pointing out sort of Choi Hark as a comparison point. I put it in a similar package that I'd put like Knockoff in, where it was like someone kind of turning the familiarity you have inside out, and definitely really just overdoing it to the point of, how can you not get pleasure out of watching martial arts jousting and like Western train hopping done by candy colored like bikers to like Nickelback. It's just it's crazy. And if nothing else, it's just like a mesmerizing time capsule that's holds a lot of value for anyone who maybe did not grow up in this era, did not grow up on these specific music videos, and this will show you something you've never seen before.
Yeah.
Because I felt like growing up on those music videos, I was tuned in the first time I watched it. I was like, oh, I understand everything he's throwing at me.
No, this is a movie that I think if someone wanted to make a Bush era period piece, Torque would be really good research. It's definitely like a movie to watch to see what popular style was like at the time.
One more thought I had was like, damn, it used to be cool to be extreme.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Extreme sports were the coolest.
Extreme sports. That's not really the case anymore.
No.
But it is. It did kind of remind me. It's like that was the coolest thing you could be back in like the early 2000s.
In the mid 2000s when motorcycles were king, you
Travis
had like,
Pastrana.
Yeah, exactly. You had dirt bike celebrities. Like that is the last time.
Man, I got into snowboarding during that period.
Yes,
that was what it was all about.
There was so many extreme sports celebrities, including motorcycle riders, and this one being a street racing movie. Like this was at the time where MotoGP, which is much bigger in Europe, was like starting to get bigger in America. My dad was really into it, and we even went to like the one race that was in the US because it was in California, like it was a time when, as I said, like in the 50s, rock and roll was king. In the 2000s, motorcycles were king. Motocross was king, but Moto Grand Prix was coming up on its rear end. But motocross was king. We need to find some good like 2000s motocross movies to watch.
When I put on Easy Rider, I thought it was going to be like this, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
Yeah, it really does like remind you of how aggressive the mainstream media was at this particular time, or the pop culture was. Like between this and Dirty by Christina Aguilera, 13-year-olds did not stand a chance at this point. You know what I mean? It was just an overload. But I love this movie. I'm also gonna for it. I just think that it's the style of it and the consistency of that style and the strength of it separates it from all the similarly toned films that did come from this era. There's others that I do like. When I watched this, it felt like it really stood out and had a more of a self-awareness that allowed me to kind of swallow the crude humor a little easier. Not that I don't love crude humor. It's just some of it doesn't feel like it's in on the joke, and it actually feels gross here and there from this era. And for some reason, there's plenty of gross stuff in this, but I just feel like Kahn had a good idea of how to deliver that satirical element. But then he's just doing things like, when someone hangs up a phone, he sets it up on a split diopter shot, like for no reason, really. It's so unbelievably well directed, and sometimes seemingly for no reason. But I think that constant style again is what makes you believe in these over the top characters and the just silly and nonsensical action sequences. And so I think it's just tons of fun. And if this is something like this tone is something that you're into and you haven't seen it, you're going to love it, guaranteed. It's really easy to watch too, even if you hate it. Again, it's 80 minutes long. It's not that much of a waste of time. Some of the only couple things I wanted to mention were just a few shots. I really like the beginning background windmills that he has as they're doing all these cool close-ups with Carrie Ford and his crew. I also like how they introduce the film with two cars, kind of like it's going to be Fast and the Furious, but then they have the bike go in the middle, and it's like, nah, we're the next generation, baby. We're way fucking cooler than you. Just certain things like that are great.
The heat waves and camera shake on that opening race section is like crazy, and like the mirror reflection shots and the speedometer stuff.
And it's
there's one.
The early CG credits where it makes it look like chromified, like steel or whatever.
That scene is crazy, and it's punctuated with street sign spinning that says "Cars suck," which is very funny.
Yeah, like come on, right? It's cartoonish. It's almost Looney Tunes.
Yeah.
There's even a really cool part where they go into the engine, and then the engine starts firing up, and then that fire comes out from somebody's eyes that's driving. Like it's just ridiculous. So anyway, I really love this. yeah. But yeah, I really love this. 4 out of 5 for me, and hope everyone enjoys it if they check it out.
Yeah, I'm gonna go 3.5 on this one. A very strong rating. I found it to be
The half-star removed because of Dane Cook.
Yeah, exactly.
Like sweet hog, man.
But he does get his comeuppance, you know.
Exactly. That's his character getting karmic comeuppance for Employee of the Month. And what was the other one? Good Luck
the worst
Chuck.
one. That one is fucking nuts.
That's the one where he's like the plastic surgeon, right? And so he's just
and he's like having sex with a bunch of girls. It's crazy.
It's actually like a horror movie.
No, I think it is a horror movie.
It grossed me out when I rewatched that. It was like, oh
also,
my lord.
Is his best friend in that one Patton Oswalt?
Oh, I don't know.
I don't know why, but I think that's like his confidant.
No, I think it's the dude that plays in
you're
Balls
getting him
of
mixed
Fury.
up with the other chubby dude.
Yeah, it's the guy that stars in Balls of Fury or the new Harry Potter movies with Eddie Redmayne. It's that guy. I can't remember his
The
name.
guy who they call when Jack Black says no.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's true. That is true.
Straight Josh Gad.
Yeah, exactly. The confidant friend in that movie had to hear a lot of nasty stuff. You know, I almost felt bad if it was going to be Patton Oswalt, because I remember that being like the first time as like a 12-year-old I was watching a comedy. I was like, this feels wrong.
This is insane.
Like,
They're trying to bring back that 80s Porky's comedy style feeling where it's done through sexual crimes.
Well,
it was honestly way grosser than Porky's. Way grosser.
I mean, it does revive a joke from another 80s rom-com, When Harry Met Sally, but, you know, it transfers that I'll have what she's having, you know, that bit to Dane Cook when his date opens the door and her baby is breastfeeding. And he says, I'll have what she's having.
It's
pretty
so
funny.
That's you know when I say it with a deadpan delivery, it's kind of funny.
I mean,
it's kind of
yeah,
funny.
I guess
I
it's
don't
in
see Dane Cook doing it. It's kind of funny.
Do you not
guys
enjoy
should
the
do a
movie
Dane
Little
Cook
Man?
month.
You know, I mean, that's basically 50% of the jokes in that movie.
Too.
If you guys did a Dane Cook month, I would actually come back because I would love to talk about Simon Says. If none
What's
of you have
that?
seen
What is
Says.
Simon Says?
Yeah, I have no idea.
Have I seen that? I gotta look that up.
It's literally a ripoff of Double Team, where they brought Dennis Rodman back, but put him in the Van Damme role and made him as made his comic duo Dane Cook.
It's spelled S-E-Z, right? In the Says.
S-E-Z.
Yeah,
that's
because
how
I feel like I've seen that title,
find
but
it.
I didn't recognize. I thought it was going to be like a play on the game Simon Says, where Dane Cook, you know, has the power of Simon, and he kind of takes it a little too far, like Good Luck Chuck.
Yeah, everybody has to repeat his comedy routines. Yeah.
Well, it was a movie that Van Damme I think was almost in, and they had his team like do all the coordinating and like location scouting for it. But then someone else took over, and it was like Dennis Rodman Tourism, and Ringo Lam, who was producing it, literally had his credit like stripped from it because he was like Dennis Rodman and Dane Cook doesn't work.
I don't
Just Ringo Lam watching Dane Cook's special on Comedy Central, like, just send me back to China. What am I doing here? What am I doing here? I will make Chinese propaganda. I don't need to be in Hollywood. I will gladly make Chinese propaganda.
For what he was doing in the movie, Cook did a good job. That's probably the best Cook performance I've seen. You know, he gets the job.
But aren't you
and
a
again-
big Waiting fan?
Oh, of course. How could I forgot? Yeah, Waiting is actually his crown
That's his
ultimate.
crown jewel, yeah.
Yeah, although that's more of my Reynolds defense.
Yeah.
More so than my Dane Cook one.
And it is fun to watch. Like Dane Cook plays the lamest character on purposely, so it's like it's just even if you don't like him, you're like, oh, I get to see him, but then I get to see him be humiliated and his car is crushed, and
He gets owned.
yeah, it's great.
Eat some boot. Yeah.
It's also just a great encapsulation of the time, like a time capsule piece. Like the time capsule piece of it is very strengthened by Dane
when
Cook
he was the
appearing.
biggest thing in the world.
Yeah, exactly. And like Faison Love being Ice Cube's second man in this one also is like, I feel like he was in like every comedy movie in the late 90s, early 2000s. Like he shows up in Friday, and then they're just like, yeah, bring that guy back. Yeah. Like whoever's on a production lot was just like, yeah, bring that guy back.
Also for Ice Cube, the easiest fucking paycheck of all time. It's probably like only like 7 minutes of actual acting, and then they just have the stunt double do the rest. But he's just on a bike being like, damn, we got to get that guy. And then like, the stuntman is in it for like the rest of the 2/3 of the movie.
Yeah.
So yeah. That's what a great payday for him.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Anyway, yeah, I think this is a really fun movie, and Joseph Kahn is definitely a worthy cause of investigation. I watched quite a few of his music videos yesterday when I was just dicking around, like putting off watching this movie.
What'd you learn?
I learned what I said earlier about like his comedic style being so crass and definitive of that era. I think is the other half of the equation, because like the hyperkinetic camera and like quick cutting and everything, you could point to a lot of music video guys of that era. I mean, Kahn is like the guy, but you know, it exists outside of him. But I think that combination.
Eddie, you will get so much of that in the battle rap movie.
I can't wait.
He literally stages it like Mortal Kombat like situations where each side literally tries to be like as racist as possible to the other person.
Oh, that sounds great.
That's what.
Yeah.
And the person in the middle, like, you know, I forget, like emceeing it basically is Simon Rex.
Oh my god!
yeah.
I did not know he was in that.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
amazing. And another connection to the Friedberg Seltzer verse to Joseph Kahn, where this like you know, it's like in spirit could have been a Friedberg and Seltzer joint, and then one of their crowning stars, Simon Rex, showing up in a later Kahn joint. I learned a lot while watching Joseph Kahn's music videos. I think that the one that really defines his style more than anything, rather than being in service of whoever the star was a trio that I had never heard of before yesterday when I was watching his videos. A trio called the Retarded Elves, and they are like a funk rap metal trio.
Wow.
And
I need to look this up. Oh my god.
They have a song called What Up G that he did the video for. And it kind of takes the form of like Doom or like another video game like that. Like it feels like you're in a cave from Doom. And the three guys in the group are just, you know, wiling out on camera as like the background zooms through it and you get all these weird video game like backgrounds. But I felt like that was like the spiritual, the closest spiritual relative to Torque that I found in the Kahn music videography, other than maybe the Eminem "We Made You" video.
Yeah.
That one, I just as a kid, I always thought that was so funny. Like I thought that was like when I was like 12, I was like, dude, "We Made You," that shit's funny. That's like Weird Al level funny.
No, I mean I have a familiarity with the "Without Me" music video.
Yeah, is that
same.
like the really like sad one?
No, it's like the comic book. I think Eminem's like
Yeah,
Robin,
he's like
and
he was dressed as
Dre's
Robin.
Batman.
Okay. I'm thinking of When I'm Gone, which
That's
is
the one that
sad
he won the Grammy for. That's like the big one that is like it was that, and then I think he won also for Toxic.
Without Me.
For Britney. Which was one of the first music videos I watched as a kid where I was like, my parents gonna get mad at me that I'm watching this.
That bodysuit was wild.
I still remember I had a substitute teacher once that was like, you know, Toxic by Britney Spears, there's actually a piece of a surf rock music in it. You know, there's that guitar. He was like trying to school the kids by introducing them to surf rock through Toxic by Britney Spears.
Oh yeah, that works.
There's that one part, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, people should go back
Smart
and check out
move.
the music videos. It's not even just pop stuff. He did like Rob Zombie, like Living Dead Girl as well.
Damn.
He did like some Wu-Tang videos.
Yeah, he did
like,
Triumph
some of
by
the-
Wu-Tang. Yeah, which is like an
Yeah.
iconic kind of later stage Wu-Tang track. Yeah.
I can't get over like a kid being like, "Oh, I love Britney Spears," and then like the teacher points that out. It's like, actually, I'm kind of. I think I'm gonna switch up my taste. I'm gonna get.
Yeah, I'm
into
gonna get
this-
into Soldier Boy.
Yeah. No, I'm gonna get into I'm gonna play Surfin' USA
Yeah,
because
oh,
of the
yeah,
surf
exactly.
rock.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, that's kind of more my speed. Enough of this shiny bodysuit nonsense. You know?
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that is going to do it for this episode of Extended Clip. You can always get an extra episode every single week over on Patreon. The link will be in the description. And you can send us your questions at extendedclippodcast@gmail.com for us to answer them on the air. Nothing in the email segment this week, though. We treated you to one last week. I think we're doing these out of order. It doesn't matter.
I don't think we did.
You say that, but we haven't recorded last week's
Yeah,
episode.
maybe we did. Maybe we did.
Shit. Yeah.
You guys are doing the time traveling shenanigans.
Yeah.
I feel it.
You know me. I'm always time traveling. I'm all about time travel.
You're a real clock stopper.
I'm a real clock stopper. Long-time listeners will remember the time machine episodes from the first few months of the podcast. A concept that was abandoned very quickly. I
forgot about
But
that,
anyway,
yeah.
Sleazoids, Josh, Jamie, thank you so much for coming to the podcast. They do a podcast called Sleazoids, and you should listen to it. Anything else you guys want to say about that?
No, just check it out. Sleazoids. We do 20th century genre movies, and every once in a while we cheat, but for the most part, that's what we're doing.
We just conducted our first ever interview with the director of the 2 Den of Thieves films. So by the time you guys are listening to this, that's probably already up, and I recommend going to listen to that. We have some scoops. For everybody. We found out that he was the uncredited screenwriter, or at least did drafts of The Rundown, Immortals, and Speed Racer. Speaking of our conversation today.
Yeah,
So-
that one was a big surprise, which was cool.
That rules. I love
Yeah,
it.
because we asked him. No one had asked him. We were like, we hear that you made a lot of money doing uncredited screen polishing, and he was like, I was like, could you say any? And he was like, probably not. I'm not allowed to, but fuck it. And he just like named a couple. Like, okay.
It was awesome.
That rules. I love
there you
that.
go.
So yeah, definitely go listen to that Christian Gudegeist interview. You can also listen to my plentiful appearances on Sleazoids, and including most recently, where I went on and talked about some Clint Eastwood, some 90s Eastwood. So
Yes.
yeah, that is all. Goodbye, everybody.
So what's it gonna be? What up, G? The money of your life is a question, and after you're broke, do you wanna be tested?